Welcome to Mindset Matters, the official podcast of Oregon Realtors. In this podcast, we dive deep into the secrets of top-performing agents, market trends, strategies, tips, and tricks that will transform and elevate your real estate career to new heights. Follow or subscribe today, and stay tuned for a podcast that's not just about real estate. It's about mastering the mindset for success. Hello, Mindset Matters podcast listeners. Welcome back. Today, we are going to cover hot topics in the escrow title world, which in the recent market and industry, there are a lot of them. So red flags on title reports, how we're dealing with the new NAR settlement rules and where escrow title fits into the mix, how they can be a better partner. Well, you're always a good partner, how they can be a good partner for you in your transactions, and when you should reach out to your title escrow partners, all kinds of things we'll cover today. And we may end up doing a part 2 with the title folks, since things are constantly evolving in this new world we live in. Today, we're fortunate to have Ryan Wood with us. Ryan Wood is the state manager for Old Republic Title Company. Ryan has been in the title industry for 32 years, all of it in the Portland market, and you're still standing. He's worked both on the title and escrow side of the business, starting at an entry-level position in title, eventually becoming title officer before transitioning to escrow as an assistant. Ryan has served as an escrow officer, branch manager, and operations manager prior to taking on his current role as state manager. Along with his role as state manager, he's part of a team responsible for configuring and implementing enterprise-wide software for the frontline staff at Old Republic, and he is proud to have been a part of the Old Republic family for the last 10 years. Welcome, Ryan. It's great to have you here.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
So before we jump into the nitty-gritty, tell us a little bit about you. Are you from, I know you've been here in this industry for 32 years. Are you an Oregon native?
Oregon native, born and raised, never actually even lived anywhere else. I enjoy the idea and would like to be able to travel more, and as I continue to get older. But that said, I think this will always be home for me. So I have a wife, 2 kids, one's in college, one's in high school, and stumbled into this industry like most people do. It's not something that anybody necessarily plans on or goes to school for. And once we stumble into it, though, it's actually really a lot more interesting. I mean, I'm glad that you talked about hot topics and stuff for title and escrow, because to be honest with you, when you think of title insurance, if anybody even knows what it is, it's not often that we go, ooh, gosh, I got tingles. Let's talk about it.
Right. Yet it's such a big part of every transaction, and things just happen, and it closes. And when things just happen, you think there's nothing that goes on behind the scenes to make it happen. So it's good for our realtor members to have a understanding of what they should be looking for in title reports. And more importantly, in this new world we're navigating with the NAR settlement, they're going to have a lot of questions about how to work with escrow title, what they can do, how to, and I don't really want to talk about commissions, but instructions and demands are an important part of the transaction and what goes to escrow title when they put it together. We'll talk about that on the high level and how you're handling that.
Absolutely.
Okay, so let's jump right in. The NAR settlement from the escrow title world. How have you all been navigating it? And with buyers, agents having to have written agreements, what's expected on your end?
From our perspective, the nice thing from our industry's job is ultimately we follow instructions. So from our perspective, it's more or less status quo. I think where we might have a little bit of experience with something like this from a different side of it is that when the CFPB came along and when they went from having the HUD to the closing disclosure and all that, there was a lot of talk and a lot of push there just saying how much of an impact this is going to have on our industry as a whole, real estate industry, not just title and escrow, but the real estate industry as a whole. And I remember looking back on that, we were thinking naively for a little bit there, we were like excited thinking, oh, we're going to have 3 days before we have to sign someone, because there was that 3-day rule that they had to disclose numbers, lenders had to disclose numbers to clients and stuff.
When did that go into effect? I remember
2015. 2015 was when that, So, as it turned out, it was a lot of business as usual. Yes, there were very specific steps that had to be changed, and there was very, maybe some of the timelines changed, but ultimately we still have those same day sign-in funds. We still have, all of these mad rushes, which, especially in a market that is generally slower, what you would be surprised by. But yeah, we still have mad rushes at the end to make all this happen and get it done. And for the most part, it's a little bit more of a wait and see on the NAR cases and what's what's going to transpire from there, because it is so recent. I'd say I do think that what's been crazy about to me about this, and so speaking specifically for me, is that it's always been negotiable. I think this is another case where there's been definitely some people who have abused the system and treated it poorly, and therefore there's a price that's being paid for that. But ultimately, this has never been a case where realtors have said, this is, we demand that we're always going to make this much. It's always been a negotiable fee. I do understand people outside of it being something, being from the perspective of they don't understand this, they don't do this every day, and therefore not maybe recognizing that. But it's always been that way. So in some ways, sure, the negotiation is going to have to still happen, and there's still going to have to be discussions on how this is going to be paid. And and to buyers agents, yeah, they're going to have to obviously sit here and plan ahead and talk with their clients and say, hey, I am valuable. I do need to be paid for this. And there is a potential that if I'm going out into the marketplace looking for a home for you, that somebody may not offer to pay me, in which case,
that's something they'll have to navigate on the front end before they even get to you. And
exactly.
While you're right, the commissions have always been negotiable. Here we are. A jury decided that the process that has worked well for so many years, just there needs to be more transparency and consumer choice. Okay, we got it. Now we have an opportunity for the industry to level up, and our members can be more professional, other licensees can be more professional, and they should articulate their value and figure out how to articulate their value on the buyer side, which they just haven't had to, even though commissions have always been negotiable. So here we are. There's two components that are going to change eventually, and I think NAR will have some rule changes that they're going to talk about, proposed rule changes next week, is the elimination of the co-op compensation from the MLS, just from the MLS, and the written agreement. So I think the bigger thing is there's specific terms in this written agreement that the buyer's agents are going to have with their clients. So regardless of how they get paid, whether the seller's contributing, whether the listing broker is still willing to pay, not through MLS, but regardless of how they arrive at that, or the buyer's paying directly, when it comes to getting the information to escrow title, what's going to be expected? I mean, where are they going to have to make their changes on the back end once a deal is put together for you all?
From our side of it, it's going to be what instructions we receive. So where I think maybe in the past, if one side or the other even were to sit here and kind of depend on saying, for instance, maybe a buyer's agent would say, oh, well, the listing agent's going to send in the commission demand. It'll show the breakdown. It'll give us that. It'll give the title company that information to be able to proceed. They can't count on that now. They need to make sure that they're, sending us that information in, saying, hey, this is how I'm being paid. This is, I am, getting it directly from the buyer. It's not necessarily coming in, any kind of a split, whatever they just need to be sure that they're actually communicating that information to us. The other side of it is in cases where they're getting a loan and that they're going to absolutely want to make sure that they're communicating with their client's lender, because that to me is actually part of the bigger question in it, because lenders now also have to adjust and determine how they're going to calculate, whether or not someone's qualified for a loan. I mean, now all of a sudden that bottom line that they're coming in with might be different. And now they're going to have to sit here and say, oh, okay, well, how do I figure this into the loan program that we're looking to use? Do we need to do a different credit? So, I think ultimately probably a lot of the same, things will still happen, but it might just be in a different format. It might be a seller credit. And,
Yeah.
and then do the lenders have underwriting guidelines that say, yes, that's okay or not?
Hmm.
And
So
that'll be the
on the
challenge.
front end, that's going to be really important when a
Hmm.
buyer's, if a seller won't pay, I mean, they should, even if a seller won't pay, they, on the front end, they should know with their lender, what, if they have to pay their own agent, how's that going to look on the loan side?
100%,
Yeah.
100%.
So there's, even if they ultimately are still getting paid, the buyer is paying the buyer's agent. They're the same way
Yes.
we've always done it. It's is one of our members says it's the same destination, just a different route to get there. So
Yep.
it's just helping our members, the realtor members, understand the different
Yeah.
destinations to get to this. Excuse me, the different routes to get to the same destination. And
Yeah.
I think escrow's gonna. And I realize we're still waiting on the rules, and much of it is
Hmm.
TBD. But are you going to require a copy of the written buyer agreement
Not
when the
necessarily, no.
transaction?
Yeah, I think unless they change forms or, change kind of like something that is going to specifically put in there, hey, I'm being paid X at close, so ultimately all we're really looking for is that we just need direct information saying this is, where the money's going. I mean, how that's going to be managed. I would say the sooner the better. I mean, because one of the things I do like about this business, and I think that is an advantage to the consumer, let alone anybody who's involved in it, is that there are so many eyes looking at things to where if, you know, even if like the agent's busy, totally get it. They send in their demand and they say, hey, this is how I'm being paid. The escrow officer's job is actually then to make sure that that's in alignment with what everyone else is sending in as well. And so again, with the lender now, not that we want to wait till the last minute and find out, whoops, now all of a sudden this is in conflict with lender's instructions or that loan program or whatever. But, so they should be communicating earlier than that. But at the same time, yes, if they send something in and we're looking at it and then we get something that's, conflicting with other information we've had, then that's when we raise our hands and, start making phone calls and telling people, hey, this is what I see over here. You're telling me it's this. Can you just clarify for me so we can all get on the same page?
So just for a point of clarification to make
Mm-hmm.
sure I understand, and I'm sure maybe some of our listeners might not know exactly the process when it gets to escrow
Mm-hmm.
title. Your escrow officers wait for the loan docs, and then escrow title prepares the closing documents as a result of the loan docs.
Yeah, and along with other things as well. So, I mean, so even though we're not a party, what you might hear through a transaction is they'll, if an agent reaches out to us or even one of the consumers does, we're not a party to the purchase and sale agreement. So in essence, the purchase and sale agreement is not instructions to us.
Right.
It does not act as instructions to us. However, obviously it's the framework of the whole thing. So we undeniably are referring to it. It comes into what specific language or what specific details are in there that allow us to, act upon it. And absolutely, if the escrow person is doing everything that they should be, they're reviewing that. And then as the other information comes in, it might be other things first. It might be a demand, it might be a commission demand. It might be other documentation that comes in. It might be an addendum or anything else that comes in as well. But then, yes, once the loan docs come in, then we're looking at that. And is it in alignment with everything else that we've, done, up to this point? I mean, the challenge there, again, goes back to what I said earlier, where sometimes lenders get docs on the same day they want to have everything go. So that's tough.
Now there will be a change once these rules are come into play and implemented, that the sale agreement can contain
Mm-hmm.
who's going to pay, who is the seller going to
Mm-hmm.
contribute a portion. So that, in addition to the commission demand, it will
Mm-hmm.
be important to match up, right? The escrow officer is going to have to look at the demands and see if that is indeed part of the sale agreement between, I realize you're not a party to it, and really
Right.
the agents aren't either, but the buyer and seller may
Mm-hmm.
agree how things are going to be paid in the
Yeah.
sale.
And yes, and we'll, I mean, just like everybody else, when you start using the same forms over and over again, sure, there's certain things that everyone understands. Oh, this is, this paragraph's in there. This says, here's what it says and all that. So, absolutely, we take that into account knowing, for instance, not in all areas, but definitely here it's customary for the title and escrow fees to be split 50-50, et cetera. And so we know that if we end up with an addendum or we end up with any other, documentation saying that that's different, we absolutely are making sure that that is being signed by both sides. Everyone understands that there's a change there. Or if not, if we're missing a piece of that, or there's something else that's contradictory, then yeah, we're coming back and making calls. So yes, whether it's a buyer broker agreement or anything like that, we're going to take that into account, and say, okay, well, this is what this says. Does it align with what we've received subsequently? Either in a formal commission demand or other documentation that might have come along, and yes, a lot of times the last minute thing that we're actually seeing are going to be the loan docs, and they're going to have their own numbers that are on there. And that's when, it kind of gets down to the, nuts and bolts of it. And we're looking at this and saying, lender's documentation has these numbers lined out. This is what we've gotten so far. If they all match up, great, let's go. Let's sign and get this wrapped up. If they don't, then yeah.
Super simple. Easy.
Yes, exactly. It's going to be a piece of cake.
But it sounds like perhaps a few weeks down the road, as the rule changes are proposed and organizations start implementing them, brokerages, that maybe we can have a Q&A with Escrow Title on best practices. I know a lot of it is individual business practice, but there will be some general guidance from the escrow title industry that will be applicable to all transactions.
Because ultimately, you're right. Because ultimately, we will be asking questions ourselves. I mean, once all of the decisions are made, and I mean, for as many different companies as there are, I'm always really happy with how a lot of times all of the different real estate companies, they get it. They kind of say, hey, this is the direction we're going, and so that gives us something to then base our decisions off of. And so we're always usually, depending on the situation, anywhere from a few days to a few weeks behind the curve, because we're trying to then assimilate everything, all the decisions that everyone's made, and say, oh, okay, yeah, we understand what you're doing here. Because, I'll still say that it comes back to, we have a little bit of an advantage, is that our job is to follow instructions. If you give us instructions and they don't either contradict each other or contradict the law, then we're going to be like, great, yes, we can do that. You're telling us to do this, and we're A-okay. So,
which makes sense because you are a neutral third party, and the instructions are guide how you perform. One of the questions that has come up recently with our members is, well, what happens if the buyer agrees to pay the commission up front in their buyer-broker agreement, their written agreement that the agent and the buyer have worked on together and agreed to? They get to closing, and like, I don't have money, I'm not paying. Then what happens? Because it's a little different than, this is about how will escrow treat, though? Because inevitably that's going to happen at some point.
It's always one of the most uncomfortable times, because basically what it comes down to is, at that point, it's the equivalent of contradictory instructions. So we then, in essence, put a hold on everything, and then we start reaching out to, usually the first call at that point would be the agent going, hey, we've got someone saying that they don't agree to this. They don't want to pay, whatever amount it is. And we go, okay, well, at this point, they are the principal. If they're telling us that they're not going to pay this, and we've got documentation saying it needs to be paid, we're putting on the brakes and saying we need to determine what we're doing and how we're going to handle this.
So you'll hold up the closing. The closing will not happen until everyone's back in agreement one way or another.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Always a really comfortable conversation.
Sure. Inevitably, that will likely happen.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
At some point, somewhere, and it just, how will an agent fare when a buyer says, I realize there's a whole breach of contract issues, a whole separate civil contractual potential liability, but on your end, closing the deal with one of the principals saying no can do, you can, and it sounds like you won't. It sounds like you'll hold it up till there's resolution on that. Okay. Yeah. And really quickly, for our listeners that may not be completely familiar with the NAR settlement, you can go to facts.realtor. NAR it puts up the latest news on the settlement, FAQs. And for us here at Oregon Realtors, we have an amazing resource hub as well, OregonRealtors.org/BBA. B as in boy, B as in boy, A as in apple. OregonRealtors.org/BBA. So everything anyone wanted to know about the settlements and what might be coming down the line for your latest and greatest information, that's a great resource for anyone, including our friends in the title escrow industry. Okay, so it sounds like there's still a lot of to be determined on the settlement processes. And so let's talk about other red flags. We'll get back to the law stuff later down the road, but let's talk about your standard red flags that licensees, our members, realtors, should recognize when they get a preliminary title report.
Yeah, I think right now, I mean, technology is an amazing thing. I mean, perfect example is this podcast. I mean, here we are in different cities able to actually do this. And I think also, though, then the perception becomes that everything can be fast, everything needs to be fast, everything, is easy. You can just do it on your phone or, over the internet, and there's not a problem. One of the big things over the last couple of years in particular that's come up is vacant land or non-owner occupied properties. So we really, it's a dangerous thing because with the ability, I mean, information now just lives on your computer and everybody can get it. And so unfortunately, the bad guys can get it too. So oftentimes you end up with a transaction where either, maybe the seller is not actually the seller or the owner of the property. There's somebody who's seen that there is this vacant land or a non-owner occupied property that they're able to get information on and then contact an agent and say, yeah, here's documentation proving I own it. And let's, go ahead and put it on the market and try to sell it. So all of the companies are handling this in slightly different ways. Everything from a letter that we're all sending out to individuals. So if we see that it's a non-owner occupied property, we'll send out a letter to the owner of record that's on tax records, et cetera. Anything that we can find to confirm that information. And then we'll send that out with the intent of notifying the actual seller. Needless to say, that can cause some concern because let's say it's all a completely legitimate transaction. Seller, so you're working with the seller and all of a sudden they get this letter from a title company, which most people don't understand what a title company is. Most people don't realize that they're going to be involved in this. And all of a sudden they get this letter randomly saying, hey, we just want to verify that, yes, this is your property and, yes, you are selling it. So one, did they actually even open their mail? Did they get it and open it? Two, then did they read this and panic, or did they read this and go, oh yeah, this makes sense, and then contact us because that's what it asks them to do.
So that is your process. Mm-hmm. That is Old Republic's process. Mm-hmm. When a transaction is open, escrow is open, and you see it's a non-owner occupied property. Mm-hmm. Even with the sale agreement, the listing selling agent, what's that? Yeah. Well, there wouldn't really be a listing agent, would there?
Well, no, it does happen. Actually, a lot of times what ends up happening is I see. Yeah, the fraudster might contact the agent, say, hey, I want to put this up on the market. Awesome, great. They're saying, oh, hey, I'm working out of the country or I'm working out of the state and this is where I'm at. And, and so, and a lot of times it can be just strictly email or other electronic communication. Yeah. So, one of our big things is this is where it is maybe the biggest thing that's a big partnership between us, lenders, agents, all of that is it's like the more information we can gather, the more confirmation we can get who these people are so that we're sure, yes, this is the individual who owns this property or even a buyer, because you can end up with a fraudulent buyer. There's, odd things that they try to do there as well. But it's us just verifying that information as much as we possibly can and confirming that indeed this is the owner and yes, they have the right to sell the property.
So is that on the front end? And before there's even a transaction that sale agreement in place, how do you identify when
it's going to be when we actually get the sale agreement, or for instance, sometimes okay, I'm going to say something that's a little out of bounds, a listing prelim, so, when a listing agent asks me, hey, I got this deal, I'd really like to, get some upfront information on it. If we're providing them with, some of the simple data that we can get through our client services departments and stuff, and then, they
Trio.
come back to
Isn't that
us.
what we call it?
Yes, exactly. A trio. Yes. So whatever the information that they're going off of, there are some companies that have gone even to the extent of at the time that they're opening a transaction, they're taking out their, phones, and they've got an app on there that then they actually contact the people through FaceTime. They verify their ID on there. That's pretty extreme. I mean, it is kind of an invasion of privacy, but I think, if agents can help by kind of ahead of time talking to their clients and going, hey, fraud is rampant. It is. I've got some FBI stats on just how bad it has gotten, and I would only expect it to get worse. But it is something that we need the agents' help as much as possible, because obviously a lot of times we're not actually getting involved until much further down the process. I mean, if there's something, and now we're happy to help, kind of navigate that early on. So let's say an agent does get randomly contacted by someone. If they want to reach out to us and we look up some property information and just to try to say, yeah, this makes sense. It's always best if you can actually have a phone call with, the supposed owner, and you even hate to say that because you start talking to them and, they're going, well, wait,
so basic.
Yes. Right.
Because in this scenario, that's my follow-up to you on the listing side.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, I've got a property to sell. Presumably, they have had those phone calls. They have seen their ID. They have checked the deed, recording who's on record, who's on, and it all matches up. So these fraudsters are pretty sophisticated.
Very. Everything from fake IDs to fake notaries to, they will, seriously, it's, sometimes I wonder if with all the talent that they had in creating these methods of cheating the system, if you'd actually just use that legitimately, what kind of a good job you could have. It's like so you could do so much.
On your end, and sorry to interrupt, I just want to make sure I understand the process. Let's just stick with the non-owner occupied properties scenario. The listing agent verifies as much as they can on their end, doesn't no red flags go up, although if someone doesn't meet you in person at the property, even if they're out of the country, that seems like that should instantly be a red flag. Yes. It might be legit, but it should be a red flag enough to know you need to go the extra step to verify. So they come to you and say, I need some information. You look up, owner of record is here, and that's when you send a letter out.
Exactly. Yep.
Okay, and that's to verify.
And then we have a practice, yes. And then we have a practice that we have to follow up on that letter. So it's not just a matter of us saying, hey, we sent the letter, okay, we never got a response, but it's like, no, we have to actually follow up on it and confirm, we sent this, you received this, and confirm. I mean, I think being able to do like everything from remote notarization to, all of the things that we can do on computers now, I think it's all fantastic. It's all great. It's all going to help, in so many ways. However, it is very difficult. Like we also just have standing rules that if you end up with a client who's saying, oh, you know what? No, I work in, I'm in New York. I work in this building. I've got a notary there. I can do it all there. We're like, no. I'm sorry that you can't. And we actually need to be either one, have a notary that we've already vetted, that we are already aware of, that is part of our company in some cases, and they will handle the signing of the documents. They will, make sure that we're communicating through their systems, et cetera, because, now with all the remote notary systems and that, it's great. I'm so glad that it's there, but there's a reason that we insist on it being specific companies and or parties.
Okay, so in that scenario, just taking it a step further for clarification, you send your notaries that you trust and have worked with. So they go to they meet someone in an office building in New York. How are they going to know it's still not a legitimate seller?
There is always that potential. I would say that again, it's all about mitigating risk. So it's just about trying to make that window smaller and tighter and more difficult for them to fit through. Yeah. And I think between, similar to the software that I was mentioning on, phones where some people can verify ID there, that's exactly what most of, at least the ones I've experienced, talking about like Pavaso and that as a remote online notary system, they have ways to verify both the identification that a person provides, but also when they ask them for, known information. So you have to answer the series of questions. I mean, it's a little unnerving when you're answering those questions yourself, because you don't realize how much of your data is out there. I mean, it's asking what was the first car you bought and loan and all that. And you're like going, how did you know that I had, a red Mustang in 1984? I don't. But for people who are concerned about their information being out there, well, one, it is. You kind of can't deny that. And two, there is a way to use that for your protection. There is a way to be able to say, this is one way that, we can verify this is actually you. And that's, it's scary. I mean, it's all right there on laptops all around the world, but there are ways to use it to an advantage. Yeah. So
it goes back to if something's too good to be true, it probably is.
Yes.
That will never change, no matter how many technological advances. In fact, it probably makes that easier to have something slip through the cracks. So you can take a number of steps to help mitigate fraud, but you can't completely eliminate the possibility.
No, and right, and just like everyone else, I mean, none of us. I mean, our role in this is obviously, again, to follow instructions and make sure everything is in alignment for all parties. Sometimes we have to ask those uncomfortable questions, whether we're like asking for a statement of information, whether we're, in truth, all of these things are being done for the protection of the people that are involved in the transaction. So one of our first things that we, kind of starts to throw some of our red flags up is when we're asking for stuff, if someone pushes back super hard, we immediately go, okay, now what? We initially were just asking because, it's part of our job. Now you push back harder and it's like, okay, why? But, let's discuss like a statement of information that we ask for. It is kind of intrusive. I mean, we're asking you for where you've lived in the past 10 years. We're asking you for, various names you may have had, yes, your social, yes, your other contact information. Totally understand where people aren't comfortable providing that stuff. And in some cases, not in all states and jurisdictions, they don't ask for the same things either, because just what can apply to a real property transaction are different. In Oregon, we run people's names. We get, past history on, anything that might come up, against their name or a name that's similar. And we've had pushback with that too, where they've gone, you don't need that. Here, you've got my name, you've got my address, you've got my social. That's all you should need. It's not always a matter of the information that they're willing to give us. It's also a matter of what information might be in those cases or on those documents that we're reviewing. So it's as strange as it sounds. We can go and look at a judgment against somebody and there's minimal information. Like there literally might be only a mailing address for them from, 2008. And so if that's all we've got to go by, we actually do want them to give us a history of where they've lived so that we can actually look at that and say, oh yeah, they lived in another state during that time. Awesome. We can go ahead and move past that. And especially anybody who's named, John Smith or, Jane Doe. I mean, it's like, guess what? There's a lot of them. And,
right.
There have been times where we've had to go through, 60, 80 pages worth of, judgments and cases and all kinds of things against names and just kind of one by one say, nope, that's not it. That's not it. So it's a challenge. I mean, I think, again, with regards to red flags, when an agent gets the prelim, one, they should absolutely look at the vesting that's on there, look at what the information that they had previously, make sure that that's in alignment, obviously make sure that it's the person that they've been dealing with, who's in title, or at least maybe an entity sure, it could be a trust, could be an LLC, but as long as they've already been disclosing that this is my company that, that I started up for this because it's a rental, yada, yada, yada. Great. If that's in alignment, we don't expect them to necessarily confirm that with us, but if they see that it's different, absolutely, a call is going to help us. If an agent sees that, the title is vested in, John Smith, and oh, by the way, there's also 3 other people on there, and they weren't aware of one of the people or one of the persons or any of them for that matter. If they call us, we can actually say, oh, really? Okay, well, hold on. Let us relook at some of this information we have, and see if there's anything else that aligns with that. Everyone makes mistakes, so we could have also missed something. So it helps us get it corrected well in advance.
So before we move on to the next potential red flag on this non-owner occupied vacant land scam sitch, have you seen worst case scenario with this? Gotten all the way to the end, and then what happened? Gotten through the whole thing, money, deed transfer, money transfer. What happens next?
Fortunately, not in my operation.
On wood. I hope I didn't.
Yeah. I'll take that as a win.
Yes,
so fortunately,
sure.
no. But actually, an interesting case did come up. A person who lived in Oregon actually came into one of our offices, and they had received the letters that we send out from our office in another state, because they also own property in another state. So they came into our office to verify, hey, yes, I received this. I just want to make sure that you understand, that yes, I got this. What information do I need to, give you so that this transaction can move forward and all of that. So for me, I was like going, yes, we send these out for a reason, and somebody's paying attention.
Worked.
And they actually, this person actually, it was in Southern Oregon. So they actually drove for hours to get to us just to say, yes, it's me. And they could actually verify that they were the owner. There are definitely the horror stories. There was another case where, the transaction did actually close. Money was transferred. Needless to say, that turned into a whole different legal issue. This is also where, undeniably, it's helpful to have title insurance companies involved in this stuff, because even if, yes, I mean, there are ways to undo it. I mean, it's not pretty and it doesn't look great,
Not free.
Yes, and it's also not free, but when you've got title companies who are, especially if they've been involved to that extent, guess who's going to step up and say, okay, hold on, almost regardless of, the causes of it. In some ways, we're kind of a steward of the records. And so, our goal is to make sure that those are as clean as possible, so that we are actually able to, the next time a transaction comes up, we can trust that those records are good. That's why when you see documents recorded, they've got title company stamps on them. And even though we all compete with each other, we look at those stamps very seriously. We say, oh, cool, they insured this. We can trust this to a degree.
So when you receive a request for a trio, or the sale agreement comes in on one of these properties, do you ever get pushback from the real estate licensee when you say, hey, we got to verify it? And they say, well, wait a minute, I've talked with this potential seller, and we've done FaceTime, and I saw their ID. It's all legit. The property is there.
Right. It's gotten better as time's gone by. Just like with everything, once people realize the risks that are out there, they start to acknowledge it and go, okay, yeah, I understand that you need to do your part. And ultimately, it is for the benefit of everyone involved, because none of us want to end up dealing with this when it gets all the way to the point of closing and money's
gone. You don't want to be a stick.
No. Yeah. At that point, it doesn't matter who you are in the transaction. You don't want to be a part of it. But that, yes, initially, absolutely. I mean, it's actually why I think title companies don't often make a very quick, rash decision. It's an insurance company. It's all about mitigating risk and not offending anyone. And so even when it seems like we're, asking for things or doing things that might, make someone upset, ultimately, that's not the first time that thing has happened. We don't make decisions like that until it becomes kind of a broader, bigger issue. And so, because absolutely, when you should have heard every single escrow officer when we started sending out those letters, they were going, that's going to make people upset. They're going to get up, they're going to call me, and they're going to be, and it's like, explain it to them. They'll understand. We just need to have it. And it also helps, again, even though we compete, we definitely look at all of us on the same side of the fence. So all the different title companies. I mean, we all know somebody at another company. It's a pretty insulated industry. And we absolutely talk, and we absolutely sit there and say, hey, how are you guys handling these types of situations? The reason I know about the software is just that, is because somebody was saying, oh yeah, no, we've taken it to this degree where we're actually FaceTiming with people and getting ID up front. Old Republic right now is still just at the letter level, and then we depend on our staff to do the follow up and the calls and make sure. And especially now with the inability, or with people not coming in to do signings as much, it makes it a little more challenging, because it's always nice to look across the table and see that person and go, yes, this is the right person.
And at the end of the day, if someone's giving you too much pushback, you don't want to work with them. Send them to one of the other.
Yep, exactly. It's like, sorry, yeah, this is our line. We've got this rule. So yeah,
the buck stops with you all, and you're the ones who do not. That's why you pay for insurance.
Yes,
so
right.
You got to be extra cautious. That's why our members have E&O insurance. That's why we have auto insurance.
Exactly. Yep.
It's a necessary evil that we hate paying for, but you're so glad you had it when you need it.
Yes. Right.
Yeah. Okay, what other big red flags? If I'm representing a buyer and I signed a deal, my client has signed a sale agreement, deals put together, transaction is sent to escrow to open, preliminary title report is shipped to me as their agent, the buyer's agent. What should I notice, at least enough to tell them to call you?
Yeah, absolutely. I think one, they need to, what you said right there, I think was key. Number one is just let the client know that they should look at it. Yes, I get it. It's coming in the email. And a lot of times people say, oh, what kind of spam am I getting now? Or if it happens to come in the mail, which isn't as often anymore, do they even open it to look at it? Absolutely advise them to look at it. They're the ones that are going to know the details of their property. They're going to know that they have one loan. They're going to know, or multiple loans. They're going to know that they've got more than one tax lot. That's another one that oftentimes gets overlooked. There might be a small, piece of property that was, also piece of what is being sold that has its own tax lot, or they might own more than one lot and they want to keep one. And, and sometimes that'll get convoluted in what the county has as their records, what tax ID number is actually assigned to which one. So any kind of input, that whether it's the agent or the actual consumer can look at and say, this tax lot doesn't, it isn't part of this, and it should be, or it shouldn't be.
Are there on the preliminary title report, are there standard liens that will come off at closing that don't impact the transaction, and certain exceptions or liens or judgments that they really need to make sure are not that will hold up the closing?
Yeah.
What are standard, what are not? What are the red flaggers that they should absolutely?
Yeah, absolutely. On a prelim, one confusing thing with a prelim is that it's just like every other, document in real estate, where there's so much verbiage and so many other things on there that it's sometimes, hard to see the wheat through the chaff. And ultimately, if you look at any prelim in Oregon, there's going to be 5 exceptions that are on there that you basically can, as the owner or the buyer of the property, you can, for the most part, unless you're a really sophisticated buyer or seller and you're dealing with commercial property, you look at those first 5 and just look past them. Ignore them. That's going to be there no matter what. You're not going to worry about them. You're going to, life's going to be good for you. Beyond that, number 6 always starts with taxes. You're always going to see tax information on the property. So always look at that. Like I said, 1, looking at amounts, making sure that the amount makes sense, making sure that there's not, a missing tax lot or an extra tax lot for some reason that you weren't anticipating. And then you're going to end up with several things that might have to do with just where the property is. And if you read them, you might be confused by them. They might not make sense to you. They might be something like CC&Rs. There might be something, like if it's in a local improvement district, et cetera. Again, kinds of things that you can't do anything about. It is with the property. It goes with the property. Everybody's subject to them. And then you're going to see liens on the property. So deeds of trust. And so you're going to want to make sure that you're looking at that. And if you see the one that you were expecting, doesn't have to necessarily be their lender, because they get sold, obviously, but at least at the time they took out the loan, that's who they took the loan out with, and they recognize that, we're good. if they see more
That's
than
on the
one.
seller side, right? The seller,
Hmm.
but on the buyer side, you're saying there's certain exceptions that are always
Hmm.
going to be there. It's not going to impact them, the money they have to bring to the table, the
Hmm.
closing, so forth and so on. But if you see D, E, and F, maybe I would
Right.
inquire further
Yes,
about what's going to
absolutely. Yeah.
happen.
Yeah. And they can call us too.
Yeah.
Buyers, especially. I mean, obviously, sellers in general are probably going to look at this and it's going to make some sense to them. They're going to understand, they've been there, they
Mhm.
understand what's there. But if a buyer's looking at it and going, I mean, it doesn't happen often, but occasionally, someone might look, it doesn't happen often because property values have gone up. As much as they have, but like sometimes you'll see, oh, well, wait, it looks like this person owes $500,000 on their loan. Well, at the time it was taken out, it might have been 500,000, but obviously that was 10 years ago. They've paid it down or whatever. But there have been times where people have called us and said, well, wait, I'm buying this property for, 485, let's say, but it looks like that they owe, five. It's like, no, it's okay. We're glad you called. We would rather than you either be overly concerned or maybe causing, some issue otherwise. Call us. We'll explain it. We see them all the time, every day. We're happy to go through them.
That's why you have partners, industry
Yes,
partners. You have a team
exactly.
of experts
Right,
to call on to help your clients or provide those names to your
right,
clients to help
right.
them get
Most
their
people
project.
like to know that they've actually learned. When you ask somebody a question and say, "Hey, can you help me with this?" Most people actually enjoy that. It's like, "Oh, I know something. I can help you." So please ask. It's okay.
And while our realtor members have to be experts in so many
Hmm.
things, just recognizing the red flags is important. And
Hmm.
having them, that's why they have you. You're
Hmm.
you're the escrow title expert on the team. But our members, we want to help them see the red flags and point their clients in the right direction to get additional
Yes.
explanation.
And we have some great people who've gone out and done classes at offices or just, with realtors to be able to talk to say, here's an example. And we can point to these things and explain this is what this means. Whether it's a new agent, an agent who just, wants to get a refresher course, anything. Or for that matter, and I'm not, suggesting that, because it's all public record information, but if they see something on their prelim and they want to call just to go, hey, does this make sense? But it's like somebody at another company. If it's somebody they trust and they just need some backup information, that was actually always a prideful thing for me is I'd be clients who, they said, hey, I'm really sorry. I've got this deal that's closing somewhere else. I wasn't able to direct it to you. And I go, that's great. Thank you. I'm glad you thought of me to call to just ask this question because that means, yes, we work together and you trust me. So this is great.
Does Old Republic have, and I'm guessing a lot of the escrow title companies have this, do
Mhm.
you have an FAQ or a top 10 red flags type of document flyer that we could
Yeah,
potentially post on our resource hub?
yeah, maybe unfortunately what they end up, they end up kind of being more specific to, so we end up with a few different flyers, and so it'll say, hey, if you're looking, you're concerned with these kinds of things. But yeah, we've got some that have gone. I think title companies are getting really good at putting out flyers that get used in a very specific window of time. And then, because, whatever's the hot topic then, like right now, fraud,
Cyber fraud.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. All the cyber stuff is really big. So we send out all that stuff. And then, during, this market has actually been interesting because of, yes, you've got the cyber issues, you've got, things get a little more interesting with financing, et cetera. And, and then also because of the technological side of it, you end up with other types of fraud issues. So yeah, everybody's kind of constantly sending different things out for different circumstances.
Yeah. Well, it might be a fun little to-do project on
Hmm.
your, there's always the issues du jour, which
Yeah,
we're going to be dealing with, and we are dealing with the NAR settlement
absolutely.
changes, proposed changes.
Absolutely.
But there's a lot of standard issues in your
Hmm.
industry that our members and their clients will encounter that might be a helpful basic FAQ that we can help
Hmm.
share as well. So
Absolutely.
just take
Absolutely.
it back to your
Yep.
whatever group would put that together. Maybe you already have it, but Ryan, really helpful today. Thank you. I know
Thank
there's
you.
so much. And maybe next time what we can do is take an actual title report
Happy to.
that might redact accordingly, but
Hmm.
that might have some issues that would require further inquiry or should require further should some
Absolutely.
follow-up from the client, the buyer, seller, or their agent. So it might be helpful to do some specific scenario-based.
Happy to.
Okay.
Happy to.
Thank you. Any closing words? Stay tuned on the NAR settlement.
Yeah, right. Yeah. I mean, I think that's another thing about that's always been fascinating about this industry. It doesn't matter how long you do it. There's always something new. I tell people all the time, especially some of the younger people who get into it. I go, you won't be bored. You're always going to be learning. You don't sit here, 30 years later and go, yeah, it's all the same. No, it's not ever. And each year something new comes up, and each year you're dealing with a new challenge, and it's like you're always going to learn. So
every challenge is an opportunity in disguise.
Exactly.
Better or worse.
Yep.
All right, Ryan, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and time with us today. And we'll look forward to having you back on another Mindset Matters podcast.
You're welcome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.